Damn, Kalo, you ballin', my G. I've been under pressure for a minute. Damn, my life a scrimmage. Never put in work for an image. I just paint a picture. Niggas must be lame, deaf and blind. Somehow they don't get it. Either way, in any case, I make a way. Lord is my witness. Never chasing dollars, cause that's silly. But I'm about my business. I just know I'm one of God's children. Peace and many blessings. Know He put us all in position. Righteous in my action, cause I know and do better. Faith and works, we never lacking.
Ooh, I was blessed to find this truth. You don't know what I've been through. So sick with these bars. I spit one line, you catch the flu. Paint a picture vivid. Pain and struggle, really lived it. Had to separate from niggas. My bad fam, it's been a minute, true. I've been studying the scriptures, trying to find my way. Like I pulled the clock out of the trash, I ain't got time to wait. They say blessed are those who read. So I had to put my glasses on, searching for the knowledge, just to break it down and pass it on. If the pressure's too much, leave it for the ones that's really built for this. Putting my life on the line, I swear I die and kill for this. I keep the laws, commandments, statutes, judgments, and the ordinances. You look foolish going against it, you don't really know the word. Some of the doctrines that's been coming out, I swear it's so absurd. So only hit my line if you truly trying to build. Got so much that's on my mind, let me tell you how I feel.
I've been under pressure for a minute. Damn, my life a scrimmage. Never put in work for an image. I just paint a picture. Niggas must be lame, deaf and blind. Somehow they don't get it. Either way, in any case, I make a way. Lord is my witness. Never chasing dollars, cause that's silly. But I'm about my business. I just know I'm one of God's children. Peace and many blessings. Know He put us all in position. Righteous in my action, cause I know and do better. Faith and works, we never lacking. Pressure bust pipes and bitter niggas, cause they ego brittle. It ain't even deep, really simple, but you surface level. Got a little potential, love to waste it on the things you pleasure. Finally set in equal measure. Damn, I thought you knew better. Caught up in the shiny, glitzy glamour, you forgot the blessings. Could it be from God? Ask yourself, did you pray, my nigga? When's the last time if you haven't, bitch? You can't remember. Tell the truth and shame the devil. What I say right to the mirror. I've been under pressure for a minute. Damn, my life a scrimmage. Never put in work for an image. I just paint the picture. Niggas must be lame, deaf and blind. Somehow they don't get it. Either way, in any case, I make a way. Lord is my witness. Never chasing dollars, cause that's silly. But I'm about my business. I just know I'm one of God's children. Peace and many blessings. Know He put us all in position. Righteous in my action, cause I know and do better. Faith and works, we never lacking.
Yo, shalom, man. You know, if anybody looking for that, that's off the Masada mix from Kasap the Fisherman, featuring Kamada Moth, man. That's soldiers and officers inside of the Masada, right? That's the Masada mix. So check them out on Band Labs. Also, man, shalom to Israel, man. It's been a minute since I did a lot, right? You know, so since I'm at home, as y'all can see, it's Saturday. We usually go do camp. Tonight we're gonna have inclement weather, so we're staying home. So we're, you know, we reined in, right? But yeah, you know, either way, this word still got to come out, right? So let me get this off the screen, right? So where is this at? Ah, dang, I closed it. That's fine, right? So as y'all can see from the thumbnail, apparently I've been checkmated. Apparently, we're doing Hebrew hopscotch. Apparently, us Hebrew Israelites don't know the Bible. We don't know Romans 11. And what we've seen is another Christian decides to make videos about the Masada. Now, the first time when I seen it, because somebody sent me the video, I put in a text in the chat that like, let's have a conversation about the things you disagree with, because like I guess it was live or whatever. I didn't see the whole thing because Christian. I'm not about to watch 2 hours of them being Christians. Like I put how many years? 22 years of my life into that. I think I've got it. I think I've come to grips with what you guys believe in. So also shalom to Miss Monica and Thwada for your continued support, man. The Lord bless you 100-fold, right, for your continuous support. And yeah, so I put on there, I put a comment saying, matter of fact, let's look at the guy before I make that point, because this is one of the wildest. What is one of the wildest things? It's very expected. It's very expected. Let me see. Let me snap my history real quick. Where is this at? There we go. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I must have closed it. This right here. Right, as y'all can see, this man, I think his name is Rick Caldwell. So I got sent this video right here. I guess it's a live stream that he did. And I typed a comment because he's basically reacting to my material loosely, to be honest. Right, reacting to my material and my breakdown, my exegesis of Romans 11, and talking about me having like a massive blunder or whatever. Like, same thing Christians always do. They can't really go point for point for you, so they have to just isolate things specifically. So I put a comment on there. Oh no, I'm jumping the gun one more time. So I was gonna just let it go, right? So this morning I wake up, found out the weather's bad. We had to make a decision for camp and all this X, Y, and Z leadership stuff. So I wake up and I see this in my algorithm. I have to turn on my PS5, right? And I see this on my YouTube. Oh, I've been checkmated. Shocking blunder by Masada Israelite School. Christians versus Hebrew Israelites. Who is right? I mark out on our own logo. And this one as well. He's basically chopping off pieces from this live specifically. So I was like, okay, I stalled you out because, this guy isn't the only Christians who do this, right? They make their video, they move on, but you continue to propagate videos and footage about me. So that prompted me off of this live right here, the last one he did when he's responding to our material, that prompted me to send a message to him, right? And when y'all go on that live, y'all go on it, don't be rude, right? But when you go on it, you're not going to see my comment. And that right there is very telling. Now, when I show y'all this, is going to be even more telling. So look at this. This is me leaving a comment. Can y'all see this? Hold up. There we go. I finally got my dual screens going, so I got to switch back and forth and get used to that. There we go. Okay. Right. So this is the video we're going to be reacting to. So I put on there, I got sent this from people who follow us, and I appreciate you for responding to my content. Would you be interested in having a live discussion on our channel so we can workshop these disagreements and maybe delve off into other topics? So I feel like this is respectful. Like there's various different things that I have to say about Christianity, and especially Christian YouTubers, right? I don't know how much more respectful I can get. So this was, let's see, right, Sunday, May 31st, right? And this was about 9:28 p.m. This is the geotags and the time tags for when this happened, when I put this comment right here. So look at this. So I go back and check, and there's no comment. And that was the next day, the next morning, on the 1st of the 1st of June, 10 a.m., 10:36 a.m., and it's not there no more. I click the time, I click newest, it's not there anymore. That's very interesting. I find that very, very interesting. that you would do that, but then continue to put clips and make videos about me. Like, this is what I mean about sincerity of people. Like, you like you have to be sincere with what if you're gonna call somebody out on certain things, you want to be sincere about like following through with those things. Because if not, if you're gonna just do this, I mean, it's gonna call into question what are your motives. Now, you would think that's already kind of like you should side eye that already as it is. Hold on, let me zoom this in so you can see it, right? So you know I'm not lying. This is the next morning, right? So you should always side eye people that do things like that specifically. So I skimmed around in the video. Where is this at? Where do I have this at? I want to show y'all something. It's crazy. I was skimming around. Like all of this is going to be pretty much an organic response, but I skimmed around certain places just to see, like, okay, where does it start? Where should we start in this? Right. So I skimmed around a little bit and stopped. Watch this. I stopped on a part that's very funny. Now, keep in mind what I just showed y'all about these text messages and showed you about like me giving you a responsible, like a literally respectful response of your content, of you reviewing my content and asking for you to do a live discussion. Remember that, because watch this.
What they're doing here, exegesis. This is theological imposition right here. This is called eisegesis. Someone, hey man, it's been a while. He says, I would love to listen to a discussion with you and an Israelite on this topic. Yeah, I would love to talk about it as well. And if you know somebody that would be willing to have that conversation, I would love to have that conversation. Nigga,
what? What? You would love to have if you would love to have the conversation, the person you responded to inside of your comment section, which is really the only comment, so you had to see it, right? And say, hey, would you like to have a live conversation about this for the edification of like your viewership and my viewership? You could download the video from my channel, put it on yours. You know, I mean, I have more subscribers than you, so I'm the A side. You can come here and do this, right? But you said you would love to have the conversation. Look, brother. We gotta do better. Let me get a Bible verse real quick. Look at this. So this is Sirach. Sirach 1:29. This is, be not a hypocrite in men's sight, and keep watch over your lips. Do not exalt yourself lest you fall, and thus bring dishonor upon yourself. The Lord will reveal your secrets and cast you down in the midst of the congregation. Like that's the problem with Christianity, especially you YouTube Christians. Like with Jim Green, he's a key offender of this. Vocab Malone, this guy, various other, what's another faithful guy. This is how y'all operate. Y'all say y'all want a conversation. Y'all jump on comment sections. Y'all have people jump on your comment section to ask you for a conversation, but you'll delete the post and then, look like a hypocrite. It's crazy.
I've been out of the pocket as far as Israelite conversations for a moment, but this is a conversation I'm willing to have. So I'm glad you're here. And this, by the way, Brother Ash, I believe you consider yourself a Hebrew Israelite as well, but we've had some engagement in the past, but I would love to have that conversation. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if I can believe that, brother, but let's start in this review. All right, let's start in this review.
Line. How many of you, put a 1 in the chat if you've ever tried to leave us urban?
Okay, I think it starts around here.
Let's talk about some of the issues I had with the teaching, and then we'll get to the video.
Right. Also, before we go any further, one more thing. This right here, right? This is fair use, right? For the purposes of criticism, we're literally criticizing, just like how you criticize my content. For comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research, right? That's what we're doing this for, right? And edification.
Yeah. What were some of the problematic things high level. And the thing is, in the balance of our time, I don't know how much we're going to get to because there were so many issues, folks. That's why I wanted to start off with the things I actually commended them for. But let me just say this. Here's what I want to commend them for. I didn't even add to my list. There was an attempt to do exegesis. There was an attempt, and this is me trying to be as gracious as possible. There was an attempt to try to walk through verse by verse. Because why do I say that? The typical standard operating procedures of most Hebrew Israelites, notice the language I'm using, most, not meaning all. There's a difference between all and most. Everybody should know that. Most is you're jumping around the Bible. You're doing what my dear brother, Alton Johnson, wonderful brother who has a channel, many of you know who that brother is, called the Hebrew Israelite hopscotch, where you just quote a verse, a proof text, and then you jump across the Bible, hence the idea of hopscotch, to another verse in a completely different context, and then you jump to another verse. That's the whole idea. So a pitch.
Well, I find that pretty hilarious that Christians say this quote unquote Hebrew hopscotch. Because when you go look at their commentaries, even if you go on Blue Letter, if you go look in their commentaries, they'll go line by line, like stanza for stanza inside of one verse, and then quote a list of Bible verses that are along the lines of what's going on in that. That's the same thing Hebrew Israelites do. Y'all don't have a problem with commentaries. Y'all read from commentaries. Y'all will read a commentary and then teach a lesson off a commentary. But now when Hebrew Israelites want to use Bible verses, like, to be honest, some Hebrew Israelites do that out of context, just like how Christians do that out of context. But some Hebrew Israelites who are studied do this in context because it elaborates on things. Especially when you want to talk about the baptism. The baptism is a lot of Bible verses. The understanding of it is a lot of Bible verses stacked on top of each other to get the true understanding. That's one topic. There's various other topics too, right? So y'all don't have a problem, and y'all understand that, and y'all don't have a problem when y'all do it, but when we do it, it's an issue. Right. And I understand why that is. It's because you believe, oh, they're going up against masses. That's really what it is. You're going up against masses. So we got to find some kind of way to make these people, Hebrew Israelites, look less legitimate. They want to delegitimize us. That's what this actually is. You're trying to. It's really a slight in a scholastic way.
Picture the idea of hopscotch. Anybody ever play that when they were a child? See that? You're in the street playing that with jump rope. Right? That's the whole idea of what you're seeing. And they believe this is the way you handle the Bible. All right. Yeah, the Hebrew hopscotch. That's right. That is typically what you will see. And the way it works, folks, is they will link together similar words or phrases. So don't worry about the context. No. We don't need to be concerned with context. We need to be concerned with similar words or phrases, regardless of what the biblical author may be talking about. And that's typically what you will see specifically from the camps. The camps, like the One West Hebrew Israelites, right? They're notorious for doing that. They're notorious. Like, it's like, guys, did you even understand the argument that the author is making in the text? No. We need to link all of these random verses together because they're linked together by a single word or a phrase so that we can get the conclusion that we want to get. We don't care. I mean, and this is not hyperbole here, folks. And Chaplain Trey knows I am telling the truth. He knows. They will literally jump around the Bible and they will, if you ask them, what was the argument in that text where you got that verse from, they have no idea. Because many of them are given like these precept packages. I'm talking about the camps where they're literally told, like, this is the way you have to read the Bible and you can't deviate from that. Their leadership will tell them, no, don't worry about the argument in the text. You need to follow this chain of succession of verses to get to the conclusion we want you to get to when you're engaging people like Christians and other people who we disagree with. That's essentially what you will see. And I just watch.
I've never seen that. Like when I first came into truth, my first 2 years, I was dealing with IUIC and I went to their school in Dallas. I think they've changed it since then, but that's not what we got when we were there. When I started dealing with Sakari, Sakari after that, We were never given that in Sakari. And ever since we started the Masada, I don't do that. Like these, like, you can't say I'm not trying to generalize a whole bunch of people while at the same time generalizing the same people. Like that, like that's an issue. Like we it's not a precept pack. Are there smart places to like? And the thing that's crazy about that, if we're gonna be realistic, Christians do that too. If I go on what is it, gotquestions.com, like I think it's .org, where Christians go to get answers for, let's just say, the Trinity. The first place y'all always go is John 1. You can never have a conversation with a Christian who believes in the Trinity without going to John chapter 1. Y'all all do that. Like that's not even me even making a generalization. That's in y'all's quote unquote Nicene Creed. That's where y'all go to support that. So we can't just pretend like, oh, you doing the same. No, that's what y'all literally do. Y'all literally do that. Now, are there smart places to go to when you want to support a doctrine? Like, this is the main sticking point for this doctrine? Yeah, that is a smart thing to do. I don't see what the issue is for that. But to say we all have just precept pack that to deal with Christians and they just do that, they can't look at the context. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Let's say we did have that. How come y'all haven't had any type of response to that yet? Why don't y'all just pull up the Hebrew Israelite precept pack and then just start cutting it? Why we don't ever see those videos? where are those videos? I'm just honest, being honest. Where are those videos at? Like this, like people, bro.
Those folks, you will see all the time. Why am I bringing that up?
Why are you?
There was an attempt in the video from the Masada Hebrew Israelites not to do that. Notice what I said, an attempt. They were not successful, okay, in the areas that mattered, okay? They were not successful in the areas that mattered, but there was...
That seems like a phrase my dear beloved brother has heard in his life. He wasn't successful in the areas that mattered.
An attempt. In fact, there was even the idea of invoking the word exegesis. They even use that word, which Chaplain Trey and others know who have any history here. You know, that was almost like a cuss word in many Hebrew Israelite circles. How dare you talk about context and exegesis? It's line by line, here a little and there a little, was the way they dealt with the scripture, right? But now you see a lot of these guys and a lot of these Hebrew schools starting to adopt the idea of using, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes, exegesis. You'll see very soon why I'm putting it in air quotes. So I at least commend them for the effort, right? I commend them for the effort, but let's get into the video. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. He said, Ron told me exegesis was Greek philosophy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. In case you guys don't know who Ron is, and this is just give you guys some context. Chaplain Trey, there's a channel called True Bunch of Black. It's not a Hebrew channel. They're our prime, okay? You see what we're gonna do. They're locked and loaded. They're ready to dive in. So we're gonna be reviewing the Masada Hebrew Israelites, and they're ready. They're locked and loaded. They got the Blue Blair Bible. They're locked and loaded. They're ready to dive in. And so we're not gonna review everything they're gonna talk about. And their goal, for those who are joining, their goal is to do a breakdown on Romans 11. They're going to show us Christians that we don't know anything about this chapter of the Bible, okay? And I beg to differ, okay? I beg to differ. I think Christians have a handle on this, but let's dive in. Let's dive in.
I don't have a handle on anything. Oh, we're going to handle it. You're going to handle anything. But secondly, I just thought about this. So he's not going to touch all of my points, and which is, fine. I mean, you could do whatever. You're a grown man. You can do whatever you want to do on the internet. But wouldn't it be more fruitful and to show yourself to be more scholastic if you just took the PowerPoint and then, matter of fact, I'm going to put that in after this video. I'm going to put the PDF file of the presentation. I would like you to go point for point for that. Wouldn't it be more scholastic for you to just show like point for point why it's wrong instead of just picking and choosing things and then talking for 2 hours? Like that, like that would be more scholastic. Why don't y'all take a page out of the book of the Hebrew Israelite? We do that. I'll take your video and chop that up for point for point. I will get in the lab and I will disassemble that shit. Shalom Israel, what you about to watch is a presentation.
That was advertising. Let's see. There's a new quote unquote teacher. There's a
since he's playing it, right? So what you're seeing right here is an advertisement for the Masada Rebellion group, for our WhatsApp group, where we do like open questions, fellowship, what else? The presentations, all these things. So a lot of these lessons y'all see, I've done like months before. Like we've done that. We just like last Thursday, we just finished all of the book of John. We did all that. We're going point for point for point. To get in that, you got to become a member on this show, right? And we have all of that. We have all if you want to go in there and ask a question off of something random, you can go in there, you can get your questions answered, you can do all of that, right? So since he's sharing it, I'm going to share.
There's a splinter group. They were part of another group and they split off. Now they have their own school. So these schools are popping up all over the place. Okay. And more channels to call it Romans 11 exegesis. So I wasn't just throwing that word around when I said they're going to use that word. There it is on the screen. Romans 11 exegesis. And they have a whole PowerPoint. I mean, a really nice, colorful, well done PowerPoint as far as design goes.
Yeah, because in Israel, I'm up there. I have to be top 5 on what like the aesthetics of a PowerPoint looks like. Some people come out here with some crappy PowerPoints, but I have some pretty good looking PowerPoints.
They have a whole PowerPoint about the breakdown for Romans 11, because apparently they do these teachings with their members who are part of the school, where they go through various texts of scripture. And they, for this video, they made it public so that I was able to grab it, and here we are. So what I want to do, because look how long this video is, folks. It's an hour and 44 minutes. And we're not going to stay here and look at the whole thing. We're not going to do that. And so if someone's going to complain and say, well, Rick, in order for you to rightly critique this video, you must cover every single point. Well, I'll give that over to you to do that, okay? Because I'm not going to spend
or at least just screenshot the PowerPoint if you didn't have it. I'm gonna put it on there so you can try it. But like, you could at least went to the PowerPoint. You could have turned the audio off and just skip through the PowerPoint and make your points. It wouldn't take an hour to do that. Like, come on, bro. That's a cop out. This man just wanted to make some content.
5 hours reviewing every single point of this video. I will only focus. We're going to do a survey and focus on some things I think are critical if you're going to have a right understanding of Romans 11. Okay. He said, just join so you may have mentioned, but let me ask. Ask what? We'll see. And by the way, there will be a Q&A at the end of this live. So with every live, I've been doing Q&As. If you have questions, maybe related to what we're talking about or other things, we'll open it up. If people want to come on and have a conversation with me, fine. But you got to be respectful, just like I'm trying to be respectful. So we're not going to do some type of battle rap situation, right? It's going to be a respectful conversation. I want to point out, because we don't have all year to look at this video, I want to point out some issues that are germane. And the first one, we're going to skip. Yes, we're going to actually skip, folks. And we're going to jump into the 11th minute mark. And we're going to talk about election. I love election. Do you guys love the doctrine of election? I do. Election is a glorious doctrine. But when we talk about election, we're not just talking about just merely salvation, folks. Because if your doctrine of election is only about salvation, personal salvation, then you have a deficient view of election, because there's multiple aspects of election in the Bible. And we're going to look at one of those aspects here right now and think about it. We're going to think through this. Okay. So I'm going to pull this up, and this is going to be related to Abraham in election in Israel. Okay. So this is a familiar text. Look at the slide we got here. And I think this is where we want to start. So we're going to start right about here. Let's go ahead and play and listen in.
Slavery from the.
Now the audio there's the main teacher, and there's another guy who's off screen. You hear his voice, and the audio. I'm going to try to raise that audio as high as, not me, it's his microphone. Okay. So listen in.
Hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
So right here is important. So we talked about evidence of us being close to the Father, right, as a nation. And that was through the law, statutes, and commandments that was given to us, the covenant, right? But the reason why we're getting that covenant, we're given that covenant, is because the oath which you swore to our father Abraham, which passed to Isaac, which passed to Jacob, whose name became Israel, and had the 12 patriarchs that went all the way down to us right now in 2026. That's why we have that. That's because of what our forefathers did. You see in Genesis, I think that's 26.
Wait a minute.
Genesis 26 and 5 that talks about since Abraham believed.
All right, so let me back it up. Let me back up the train a little bit, Betsy. Let me back the train up so I can catch that. Listen when he said the basis of the oath that God of the promises of the Abraham promises. What was the basis? Listen, this is our first issue. So what I want to do is when we critique, we need to be active listeners. Listen to the arguments. Listen to what's being said and listen to what is not being said.
That the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
So right here is important. So we talked about evidence of us being close to the Father, right, as a nation. And that was through the law, statutes, and commandments that was given to us, the covenant, right? But the reason why we're getting that covenant, we're given that.
The reason why we're given that covenant. Think about this is I want y'all to follow the logic. The reason he's talking about the Abrahamic covenant. What is the reason why? Listen carefully. And I'm going to pause and I want to let the live chat tell Rick Caldwell here, who is your host, what the problem is with his argument.
Covenant is because the oath which you swore to our father Abraham, which passed to Isaac, which passed to Jacob, whose name became Israel, and had the 12 patriarchs that went all the way down to us right now in 2026. That's why we have that. That's because of what our forefathers did. You see in Genesis.
Did you hear what he said? Why do they have the covenant? Why do they have the promises? What was his answer?
I think that's Genesis 26 and 5 that talks about since Abraham believed the law, statutes, and commandments and kept the law, statutes, and commandments, that's why he got the promise that he did.
Is that true? Is that
the Bible says that? I literally said what the Bible said. I literally say exactly what the Bible says. In Deuteronomy 7, because before I even go there, because matter of fact, I can say that while I'm typing this, right? So in Deuteronomy chapter 7, where was that? All right, boom, Deuteronomy chapter 7. So I say that the reason why we have the covenant is because of who our forefathers are and what they did. Those are two things that are literally in the Bible, right? And he's saying he's challenging that or questioning that and saying that's wrong, while me having the proof text on the screen on his response video. And look at this. Look at this. So I'm gonna read this. So Deuteronomy 7:6. Let me zoom it in a little bit. Ooh, I want that. Okay, that's better. Right. Deuteronomy 7:6. It says, "For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for his treasured possession out of all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. It was not because you were more in number than any other people that the Lord set his love on you and chose you, for you were the fewest of all peoples. but it was because the Lord loves you and is keeping the oath that he swore to your fathers. Who is that? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Paul talks about this type of choosing and election in Romans 11. Look at this. Romans 11, and where is this at? Yeah, Romans 11:28. It says, as regards the gospel, they are enemies for your sake. Who was that? The Pharisees and the leadership of Israel who came against the true Christians, like the actual followers of Christ, not what they do, the followers of Christ, right? And against Paul, right? This is as regards the gospel, they're enemies for your sake. But as regards election is the choosing, right? That's the same choosing we're reading in Deuteronomy 7. They are beloved for the sake of their fathers, their forefathers. Who is that? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's the same exact thing that I just said, right? He just wants to harp on the part where I says it's also because of what Abraham did, which is funny because the Bible also says that. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
That's true. I got my finger on one of the sound effect buttons right now. I want y'all to think about that. Think about the nature and the way the Abrahamic covenant came to be. Is that true? I see a not true from Grant Scott. Why not true, Grant? Wasn't Abraham? Does Abraham believe God and was counted to him as righteousness? So you have Ashley quoting Genesis 15:6. And then this guy here on the screen, you see in the corner, he's going to reference Genesis 26:5. Who's right? Who's right?
Who's right? Me and Ashley, you big dummy, right? So when you look at this in Romans, because Genesis 15 is where it's originally said, but in Romans 4, Paul says it just. I just want to hit the verse he says because it's real succinct. He's just quoting. And so Romans 4:3, it says, "For what does the scripture say? What does the scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. He had faith." Why am I going here? Because the context of this chapter, he wants to talk about context. Context of this chapter is faith. So now, is that the only? Do we just shut the book after that? No, because there's a whole canon of the Bible that we have to believe in also, right? So did it start with faith? Yes. Does it end with faith? No. Why? Let's go to Genesis chapter 25. Is it 25 or 26? Okay, look at this. So Genesis 26, I'm going to start at 1 so we can get the context, like our Christians talked about. So now there was a famine in the land besides the former famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Gerar to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. Dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and to your offspring I will give these lands. Oh, what is this? The promise. The same promise that Abraham believed in Genesis 15. The same promise. And I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath, the promise, that I swore to Abraham your father. I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands, and in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. We know what that's talking about. The same thing he believes in Genesis 12, Genesis 15. He believed in this specific promise, and it was accounted for him for righteousness. Now watch this. Because, now what does because mean? I wonder what the Hebrew says with because. Right? It was a keb, right? A consequence. A consequence, gain, reward, end, right? of consequence because consequently as a consequence of that because, right? So consequentially, right? As a consequence of what Abraham just did, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes. And you know what that's actually quoting? Because not Christians, Hebrew Israelites say he kept the law, like the Mosaic laws. That's not what he's talking about at all, right? You want to know what that commandment is? We actually read about it in Genesis chapter 22, right? So in Genesis 22 and 1, it says, I'm not going to read this whole chapter. I'm just going to skip to the parts that are relevant, right? So Genesis 22 and 1, it says, after these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. He said, take your son, this is a commandment of God, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. And you know what Abraham did? He did that. But right before he was going to offer him as the sacrifice what the Lord commanded, the Lord gave him a substitute ram so that his son doesn't have to die, which is also going to showing us how Christ is like the law, like the Torah, right? Is a schoolmaster to have us understand Christ. That's what Paul is talking about in Galatians, the 3rd chapter. The law was a schoolmaster. How instead of your son dying, I'm going to give you a sacrifice. But I digress. That's a commandment that the Lord gave to him, right? Now watch this. Let's start at 12. No, let's not start at 12. Let's start at 11 to get the point. The point is in 12, but let's start at 11 to get the context. Or is that right? But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. He said, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, just like how it talks about keeping the commandments, fearing God, that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and beheld behind him was a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of this place, the Lord will provide, or Jehovah Jireh, or we know, right? It's as it is to this day. On the mount of the Lord it shall be provided, right? And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven. Watch what he says. And said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this. The same thing is talking about in Genesis 26 about him obeying the commandments of the Lord. Since you have done this a work. Because the only reason Rick is coming at me or trying to contend against my point is because I'm talking about a work. What Christians run away from forever is works. Am I saying works supersede faith? No. Am I saying I don't have to have faith, I just have to have works? No. We're talking about faith being perfected by its works. That's how faith is. Faith without works, like how James says, is dead. Consequently, we're going to go there next and seal this point. But we're talking about the commandments that Abraham did, right? It says, and said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you. This is the promise that was being told to him again, to let you know what's going on in Genesis chapter 26 and verse 5. The blessing, it literally says that. It talks about this, and verse 18 shows that. So why am I saying all this? Because it wasn't just by faith was he shown to be righteous. And that's important to know because of this. Let me show you this right here. Faith apart from works. James 2:21. Was not Abraham our father justified, just like how he believed, he had faith in the promise, and he was justified. He was not Abraham our father justified by works, right? The one thing Christians are scared of, works, when he offered up his son Isaac upon the altar. You see that faith was active along with his works, and faith was completed by his works. Right? Excuse me for giving a whole complete picture of what the Bible is talking about in a short amount of time to substantiate my points. Excuse me. Look at this. And a scripture was fulfilled that says Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. And he was called a friend of God. The same thing he's talking about. Same thing Rick's talking about. Same thing Ashley on that was talking about how Abraham believed God, and it was counted for him as righteousness or justification. Watch this. You see that a person is justified by works, and not by faith alone, like how Christians believe in. And in the same way, was not also Rahab the prostitute justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way. This is showing you how you have to do something to get this justification. Excuse me for understanding the Bible and then summarizing it to support my point while in where I was teaching it in Romans 11. Excuse me. I'm sorry that what I'm teaching doesn't go with traditional Orthodox Christian theology, but I believe in the Bible and I'm going to teach it from that mindset. And works is a part of that. I hate what Christians talk about, like a works-based salvation. Like that, it just sounds so stupid to me to think that you could just say you believe in God and you're saved. That is crazy to me. Titus 3:8. We're going to go back to what he's talking about. This saying is trustworthy, and I want you to insist on these things so that those who have believed in God, believed in God, may be careful to devote themselves to good works. These things are excellent and profitable for people. A Christian will tell you works are not profitable, but that's not what Paul said. That's not what James said. The people closer to the covenant than me, Rick, Ashley, anybody else are disagreeing with what you would say conventional Christian theology is. That's why y'all don't talk to us. That's why you don't have y'all will see who y'all have conversation with people who you know lack biblical sophistication. But somebody like me or other people, and I'm not about to be proud and say, oh, I'm the only one that is biblically sophisticated. I'm not gonna do that. But people like me and others, right? They're not gonna have a conversation with them because your career will be ended. That's what this is. That's what you're seeing right now. That's why they do this. That's why my comment about asking about my conversation was deleted. That's what you're seeing. So let's go back to this shenanigans.
Ashley right? Or is this chief apostle fella on the screen right? Here's the thing. I want us to think through these issues, right? Because remember what I said at the beginning of the slide. It's not enough that we come to the right conclusion. We have to demonstrate why we came to the right conclusion. He says, Ashley says me, but why? But I want y'all to explain the why. I'm into ding, ding. Okay, all right. That's my little sound effect for Grant. All right.
Yeah, see, that's why he ding that verse from Romans 4:13, because that's a proof text for Christians to say, oh, we don't have to do what God says. We don't have to keep God's laws. That means I can worship Satan and believe in Christ. If you're taking Romans 4 and Paul's epistle to say I don't have to keep the law and all I have to do is believe, I can say I believe in Christ and do all of y'all's tenets and still worship Satan. That's what you believe. Don't tell me you don't believe that, because that's what you're saying without saying it. It's a difference without a distinction.
Yeah, you're hot. You're right on the butter. Your finger's right on the trigger. You not only be able to tell me, listen to what he says. And that, so they say what he did and the faith that he had, right? So yeah, there are scriptures that talk about the fact that Abraham's faith was considered legitimate faith based on his works that demonstrate his faith was real. I'm thinking about James 2. But what do you see? What do you see as the?
So you don't have a point. So you don't have a point then. What are we talking? Like, so you don't have a point. Like, I believe there's this thing where people say now it's cotton steam. Two things can be true, right? Two things can be true, but things that are diametrically opposed from each other cannot be true at the same time. It can't be. How do you have a point? If I'm saying he believed in God, and because of our forefathers and because of his works, all three into one. Y'all want to talk about the Trinity? That's a Trinity, right? All three in one is the reason why we have the covenant now, right? If I say those things, you say, no, you're wrong, and then turn around and say his faith was legitimized by his works, but want to crucify me for teaching that works had to happen. Those two things can't exist in the same place. Like, an unstable, a double-minded man is unstable in all things, man. In all things.
Grounds for the promises. And there's still something else I want y'all that's missing from, okay? Why is like, if you hear me loud and clear, we have throne, okay, for major issues. So the question is, here's the question. Did Abraham's actions, his obedience, was that the basis for God's oath to Abraham? Like, Abraham, you obeyed, therefore I'm going to do all this stuff because you obeyed? Is that?
It said it though. It literally said because, and the Hebrew word there means like a consequence of. But since you did this, then you reap the good consequences. It's like when you're playing a video game, right? When you're playing a video game that has multiple endings, you have the good ending and then you have the bad ending. Abraham did what he had to do to get the good ending. That's what happened. But since y'all don't want to be held accountable, since John 3, since Christ was so right when he said in John chapter 3, where it talked about in I think it's 19, where men hate the light because their deeds would be exposed and be reproved. That's this. That's why y'all come against us when we talk about works. Y'all know full well that we include faith in what we believe in and what we teach. Y'all know that, but we'll pretend like we don't and just say all we have to do is have works and call these people Pharisees. That's what y'all do because you're not biblically sophisticated to contend. You don't know how to do a cross-examination, right? God forbid we had a formal debate. Like, God forbid. And I'm kind of taking a break on I'll take one, but I'm kind of taking a break on those a little bit. I'm not trying to jump into those because when I talk and this is we're doing a side quest right now. Every time when I go on people's channels who talk mess about me on the internet, they have these elaborate PowerPoints and videos about how I'm wrong. But when I ask about a formal debate, we get to a formal debate. It's like y'all are like on SpongeBob grabbing the orb of confusion. Like on SpongeBob, there's this orb you grab and you immediately just sit there confused, looking like you're I can't say that word, but like the R word, right? I'm trying to do better. looking like you're just confused out there. That's what y'all, every time that them lights come on, when the lights come on for that formal debate, y'all look stupid. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but that happens every time. That's what happened in my last debate with Reincarnation. Brother had 4 or 5 videos eloquently trying to show that I'm wrong and what I believe in is wrong. 4 videos, got there, looked foolish. Jim Green made a plethora, and still makes to this day, plethora of videos about me and what I believe in as regarding salvation. Got on there, made a fool of every single time. And it's not even me trying, is y'all get up there and just look foolish. It's like y'all grab the orb of confusion and just be lost. Or we could just be lost like this. Oh, but let me see if I can find that. Hold up. Let me see if I can find it. Just real quick. This right here. This is what they do. Every time I get on a debate with a Christian who's called me out or make videos about me. This is what y'all do when we have the debate.
This town belongs to Man Ray.
Not so fast, archvillain. We still have the orb of confusion. Take this.
Well, that was easy.
That's how my debates go every time. Every single time. That's how my debates go. Y'all got so many videos about me. It's so eloquently taught. You got so many PowerPoints. We get there and y'all sit there and do that. Well, that was easy.
So fast, archvillain. We still have the orb of confusion. Take this.
That's what they do. As soon as the cross-examination starts, this is what happens.
Well, that was easy.
That's what I do. And then, well, that was easy. I've been saying that to so many people. It's crazy. Let's continue.
Is that correct? Well, most of us, at least those who dared to give an answer, said no. That was incorrect. And so here's the thing I want to offer from the scriptures. Grammatically and contextually, because they like to do this. Let's look at the verse they like to go to. Got your Bibles? Let's make sure we got our Bibles, folks. Let's go to our Bibles. They like to go to Genesis chapter 26. Now, let me just read the verse. If I just read this verse in isolation, and I don't actually spend time reading my Bible, I may, on the surface, I may have a problem. There may be a problem. Notice what it says here. Notice it says, I'm going to go back to verse 4. And I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these lands. Right? You know what? I was wondering why I'm reading the English Revised Version. Like, why? That was my problem. Now, hold on, folks. There we go. Before I was like, my tongue wasn't working. All right, that's better. Okay, let me go back. Yeah, now we're cooking with grease. All right, I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and I will give to your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because, this is where they hang their hat, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And they say, checkmate, Christians. See, there it is. It was because, and here's the thing. If you read this verse in isolation to the context of the narrative, that is, there's a whole narrative that begins back in chapter 12 all the way up to this point, you may be inclined to believe that. But let's folks consider this. The conversation that God has with Abram before his name was changed to Abraham goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, 2, and 3. And then we have the actual covenant promise given in Genesis chapter 15, beginning in verse 1. So I'm not going to read all of it, but let's just go back.
But wait. We talk, no, buddy. No. We keep talking, like, they want to talk about this Hebrew hopscotch, right? We need one for the Christians, the Christian shuck and jive, or the Christian confusion. We need something that sticks. You know, like Trump got a new one every day. He calling Democrats now. We need something for them specifically. What does that mean then? Because I already attributed, because I agreed with him, and I didn't say that when I did my live, but I didn't have to because it's common knowledge. But I already attributed that he believed in the promise, like in Genesis 15, and then he had works. And the Bible says that. Now, regardless of what you think I believe in, or what you even believe in, it said because of this reason. So what does that mean? This is what I mean about Christians, how, like, y'all don't really have answers to things. What if like, don't go other places, just stay right there. What does that mean? Because prior to verse 5 in Genesis 26, the verse before it qualifies that he's talking about the blessing and the oath and the promise. The next one says because, a consequence. So why is that there? You don't have an answer. That's what this is. You don't have an answer. You want to talk to me about Romans 11? That's a lot for somebody who studies in the Greek in that chapter. Please try me in that. But you know, I'll even double down and just keep it about Abraham. why does it say this, right? Why does it say because here? Why is that even mentioned here? Make that work with your theology. And the issue is you can't. So you go other places.
Given in Genesis chapter, covenant with Abram, right? The head, and he says, after these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Fear not, Abram. I'm your shield. Your reward shall be very great. But Abram said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, behold, you have given me no offspring, and a member of my household will be my heir. All right. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. This man shall not be your heir. Your very own son shall be your heir. So there's certain promises right from the very beginning, right? We start to see. And he brought, and notice what it says. I'm going to keep reading down to the verse that I think Ashley brought up, right? And he brought him outside and said, look toward heaven and number the stars. If you are able to number them, then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And he believed the Lord, and here it is. And he counted to him as righteousness. So, you have the promise of God, and you have Abram believing God. Believing that God would do what he said he would do, that God would bring these promises to fruition. And you have the very same idea when you get to Genesis chapter 17 as well. So most important thing here is that in Genesis 15, God alone, this is important, folks. If we keep going down, God alone does what? Let me see if y'all know your Bibles. God alone does what in Genesis 15? God alone does what? I'm asking the live chat because this is critically important. This is the part that was missing. Great answers from all of you. I just want to fill the gaps. God alone does what? God alone does what? Does anyone know? I'm going there right now. Look, I'm in the section. What does God do? Dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abraham, know for certain that offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants theirs, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. Right?
This, Jaquan, yes. Dude is talking about two different things. How I think this is how do we know that Abraham believed God? Because he acted upon what was told him to do, right? Exactly. It's both. It's literally both. Like I said earlier, two things can be true. These two things, at first he heard the word of God, believed in it, right? And acted upon it. That's why Genesis 26 and 5 is the conclusion of that matter. It starts off with faith. You hear the words of God. All of us who are on this, well, the people who are practicing Israelites, y'all Christians, y'all be hearing your father the devil. But us actual true believers in Christ, we and the Father, like Yahweh, they call him Yahweh, right? Us true believers in his word, we heard that as I need to start keeping the commandments. Oh, I need to start having faith in the Son. Oh, I need to listen to what these prophets say. That's how a faith is perfected. And Abraham showed you that before the New Testament even began. And when I mean New Testament, I mean the dividing Matthew through Revelation. Before that even happened, Abraham showed you what that looks like. That's why it's called the father of faith. That's why in the prophecies, the Lord says through Isaiah that we have to look to our father Abraham. But these guys are not there's no reason why I should be more sophisticated than you, Elder. There's no reason. You've probably been studying the Bible since before I was even born or was a little kid. I shouldn't be more sophisticated than you.
Right? The whole idea of the Exodus, right? As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old. Notice this. As that day. Notice what it says here. The Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, to your offspring I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, to the river Euphrates, to the land of the Kenites, of the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, on 6. We'll get there, all right? But we got to establish Deuteronomy 2. That's why I example of what I mean. Philman called the Abrahamic covenant an unconditional covenant. It is not conditioned on man. It wasn't.
Okay, now that's the thing, right? I agree that when the Lord offered this covenant to Abraham, it wasn't conditional, right? I agree with that. But when he had faith in that unconditional covenant, the Lord and walked after that, the Lord justified or showed him to be righteous in that. That's the point I was substantiating in Romans 11. You've gone so far away from this is supposed to be your antithesis against my Romans 11 breakdown, and we're talking about something so minute in that it's a small phrase that I said in Romans 11 about my exegesis in Romans 11. And you're wrong at the same time. Like, this Christians. It's Christians.
Conditional on Abraham thing. So this type of done this and have not with what you have throughout from the beginning of the initial promise is a reaffirmation. This affirmation, you have the initial saying we have the right answer. We're demonstrating this by going through the text. 5 follows the declaration that God will establish the oath already sworn to Abraham. So
okay, cool. So now he talked for what, like, ever. I don't even know how much the literal time is. He talked forever. Now we're going all the way back to the verse in question. Let's see if he breaks down the verse in question.
It's important. The 5 follows the oath that he had already given and has repeated multiple times in the narrative, right? The text is not saying, I swore the oath because Abraham obeyed. We've already seen that's not true. Rather, it's saying, I am counting and continuing to confirm the oath sworn to you, Abraham, and Abraham's faithful obedience explains why he is enjoying covenant fellowship and why.
This is what I mean. I'm gonna put my Rick's voice. I'm not saying it's not saying that he's getting the covenant for his obedience. But what I'm saying is, because of his obedience, he's taking part of the covenant. Like, get the fuck, bro. You didn't have an answer. You did all that talking to have no answer. Just to agree at the end of it. Just to say what I said in the reverse sense. It's like, oh dang, I can't show it. It's like if I show it, they're gonna copyright me. They got a thing. Anybody who's watched the Chappelle show, they had who was he talking about? Where he said Charlie Murphy, darkness, Rick James. So they had Rick James. He said, I didn't do that to his couch, but I did do that to his couch. And like 2 seconds later, he just contradicted himself completely. That's exactly what he did just here. He said, "Oh, I didn't say that." Yeah, Crop, you know what I mean. He said, "I didn't say that it was. I didn't say that he's getting it because of what he did, because of his obedience, but because of his obedience, he's getting it. He's taking part in it." But like, come on, bro. Like, come on. Why you make this live? Why you make this live, bro? Why you do this? Why you didn't just go through Romans 11 and tell me how I'm wrong, bro? Because y'all have had the prevailing understanding of Romans 11 throughout centuries. I think there may be a few variations, but it's still ultimately the same thing. Non-Israelites can become Israelites. That's what you really mean, right? So like, y'all have had that prevailing understanding. You should have it perfected. So you should have a more substantiatable point when you're coming to critique my breakdown. That's the antithesis of that. You should have that. You should pick things out of this and say, okay, it's wrong because of this. You're not even talking about. I said this. That wasn't even a slide in my presentation. Like, oh shit! Listen, you didn't get hit because I hit you, but I hit you because yeah, Jaquan. That's what I'm saying. Why did you make the slide, bro? Why did you do this to me? Well, why would you do this? Because I was gonna let you make it. I was gonna let you because I saw that you deleted my comment like days before. Like it's almost been a week. I seen that and I just let whatever, right? You continue to make videos about me, so now here we are. But why did you do it? You didn't have to do it. You didn't have to do this, Elder. You didn't.
Isaac stands in the line of covenant blessing. So two things can be true at the same time. Do you realize this, folks? And this is true.
What? Yes, two things can be true at the same time. Yeah, you have faith and then you have works. Yes, two things can be true at the same time. Yes.
Scripture that God will bring his promises to fruition, but at the very same time, people can forgo covenant fellowship based on their actions. And just because of their actions, whether they're righteous or unrighteous, never overthrows God's commitment to his promises. That is the whole basis of the arguments of Romans 9. It's funny, like these guys are actually arguing against Romans 9, because the whole idea of Romans 9 is this: regardless of what people have done, whether or not Israel had largely not believed in Christ, God is going to bring his promises to fruition. Nothing is going to thwart, to use the words of Job, the purposes of God, right? Nothing can do that. Even people's disobedience, right? So this is a thing we need to lock and load in our minds. This covenant, this Abrahamic covenant, is an unconditional covenant. God's reputation is on the line, right? This is what we need to understand when we think about the Abraham covenant. Abraham covenant is, well, God just he made some kind of motion towards Abraham, but it's predicated on Abraham's performance, whether or not that comes to fruition or not. Absolutely not. In fact, had these Hebrew Israelite guys who were reviewing carefully read Deuteronomy, not just chapter 7, but chapter 9, what do you see in chapter 9? That the possession of the land that they're going to do, they're going to depossess the inhabitants of the land. What does Yahweh say? Let's just go there. You'll get this for free. That's not even my notes.
When I skimmed, I went to
what
that.
Does Yahweh say in Deuteronomy 9?
Deuteronomy 9 and 0.
It's just because all right. Let's skip ahead.
Right,
and let's focus on another problem that I saw, right? And this is more germane to, Romans 9. And I'll just jump to this one. This will be good. This will be a good one. Yes, I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to kind of jump around a bit because we can do that. I'm going to jump about an hour into the video. A great majority of them do not allow Gentile. Now, a lot of these Hebrew Israelite groups, and I say a lot, not all, but a great majority of them do not allow Gentiles to be Gentiles. Let me say that again. Many of them do not let Gentiles be Gentiles. What do you mean, Rick? They believe that Gentiles are really Israelites. Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, when you open your Bible and you read Romans 11, did you realize that Gentiles really weren't Gentiles, that Gentiles were secretly Israelites?
Now, see, I wish you would represent the scarecrows. I wish you would represent our point correctly. We don't believe every time you see the word Gentiles, it is an Israelite. I feel like we go out of our way to say that. What we say is contextually, there are instances where the word Gentiles, nations, ethnai, goy, goyim, ethnos, could mean a Israelite. There are instances of that. Paul shows that like 3 times at least that I can remember off the top of my head. Right? And if you've seen how Israelites were treating other Israelites, like the Hellenized Jews, the Jews in Hellenism, And I talk about that in my PowerPoint, which he just pretends to not see. Because when he says we don't allow Gentiles to be Gentiles, when I talk about Gentiles in that, I make reference to who these people are specifically. Specifically. Now, we see how Israel treated Israelites who weren't adopting the ideology and concepts and culture of Judea. They treated them like they were not Israelites. And Christ even kind of perpetuates that in Matthew 18. Let's go there. No, Matthew 18. Yep, Matthew 18 and 15. It says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother, right? You know, only if certain husbands would do this. If you know, you know, right? But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, go. I'm trying to read it like it's KJV. If he refuses to listen to him, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile. Let me say it again for the people in the back. A Gentile. We treated Israelites who transgressed the law, transgressed each other, the law, and the nation, and their God as Gentiles. Is this man still an Israelite physically? Yes. How shall he be unto us according to Christ? A Gentile. And that's not the only place where we see things like that, because we see, like I go to all the time, Genesis. I put Gab. Oh yeah, no, not Gab. Not Gab. That's another one. If you know, you know. The hell? Oh, there goes the storm. Where is this at? Genesis 14. Is this what I want? Yeah. So Genesis 17:14, any uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin shall be cut off from his people. He has broken the covenant. It's a Torah commandment, right? Look at this. Cut off from his people. What is that? Your nation. What happens if an Israelite's cut off from their nation? You become what? A Gentile. This is why I say there are instances. We've always, to be honest, I think we've always, and not just like Masada, not just Sakari, not just One West. I think all of us really say that, but y'all purposefully misrepresent us. You do it purposefully, right? I'm not, because I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I've ever heard Israelite just say all blanketed Gentiles are Israelite. I don't think I've ever heard that. I could be wrong, but I don't think I literally have never heard that. Like crazy work out here. There was one more I wanted to get on this one. On this. So and John, this is just a quick one. I showed this to Dwayne when how he's out here tripping on TikTok. Because he said, "Oh, I said, so the word ethnos, right? Ethnos is the word that gets translated into heathen in the Greek. And they translate it into heathen, heathenish, Gentile, heathen, Gentile. There may be something else, right? I said, does that word always mean a non-Israelite? He said, yes, right? That video is still on the channel. You can see it, right? So I said right here, let's see. Die for the people. Right here, right? In the context of John 11, it says, nor do you, also Shalom Benjamin. It says, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, and not that the whole nation perish. When you look for the whole nation right here, right, ethnos, right? Ethnos is used here. The word that gets translated into Gentile. See, look, Gentiles, most of the time, nation, heathen, or people. That same word can be used in reference for Israel. So just like every other word in the Bible, Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, right? Am I missing one? I think just those three, Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic, they're defined by the context that they're used in. This is something you would know being a scholar and being scholastic in the Bible, right? So there are instances in the Bible that we can go to, at least 10 that I can think of off the top of my head, where either that word or that concept is used for Israel. So to say we're not letting Gentiles be Gentiles, no, we don't want to believe in conventional Christianized ideology and think the word ethnos or goy or goyim just immediately means a non-Israelite. No, we're not. I'm not gonna refuse conventional wisdom. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just not gonna do it.
How do they do that? Yeah, I'm scratching my head and wondering, always wonder that as well. Well, they have to import some things into the text that are not really there. And so one of the things they do is they deal with the argument of jealousy. So remember let me go to Romans 11. Let me pull that up so you can see that. And actually, instead of pulling it up, let me let you hear them talk about it. So let me go 55 minutes in. 55 minutes in? Let's go 55 minutes. All right, right here. Is this about jealousy? Yeah, you see on the screen, they're going to talk about it. Let's listen in.
All right. That's why I wanted to start in the beginning, because everything we read so.
Look at this. This is on topic with off topic, right? So I posted this video on our Facebook page. Look at this, like on our Facebook page. Look what these Yadu douchebags did. Look at this. Look at this, bro. Why are you gonna keep posting the same picture over and over again of freaking Yad? Nobody cares about Yadu. Nobody, like Yadu, like you have to really realize that there is a viral video on this channel of me destroying you. They're going to see that when they search that up. Matter of fact, let me help y'all out. Just sidebar. We can back into it. This right here, right? Yaju, the false Messiah versus Sakari, the Ballad of Bar Jesus. What a hell of a video, right? And not only did I do that in Atlanta, also while we was also in Atlanta, Matati had called him, right? like you're posting this on there. I'm gonna delete all of it, so it's not gonna be there. But you're doing all this. You've been destroyed by me, right? Next up, let's see.
Before breaks this down without even having to break it down. But when we break it down, when we look at the they right here, I got it color coded for red right here for the they. It says the leadership of Israel, rulers, scribes, Pharisees, and their supporters.
I would say that, and this is another thing I'm gonna get to later, folks. That they in the text. So that's Romans 11:11, right? So Romans 11:11, they say that they is narrowly, I'm using this word, the leadership of Israel, the rulers, scribes, Pharisees, and supporters. That is too narrow. They may be included, but that's too narrow.
It's not too narrow because the context shows it, you big dummy. We want to talk about isolating. I substantiated that. Because you jumped all the way from verse 1 all the way to verse 11, which is crazy. You want to do a rebuke video or a correction video, You jumped all the way to, I'm like an hour into this, and I substantiated that point a long time ago, right? The context substantiates that that's talking about the leadership of Israel. That's the they, just like it talks about that they're enemies to the gospel, but touching that same they, but as touching the election, they're beloved for the forefathers' sake. So the forefathers is mentioning is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So who are those specific people? Oh, I know, Israel. What's that dude on YouTube? Like, come on, man.
It's a lot larger than that, okay? But the reason why they want to do that is they try to make the they kind of like this really narrow subset of Israel, and that really doesn't follow Paul's argument. We may get to that momentarily, but I want to get to this jealousy issue here they're going to bring up, okay? They're going to talk about why Paul uses the whole jealousy in his argumentation in Romans 11.
And highlighting the verses we went to support that. Romans 11, 7 through 8, the breakdown we just had. Now, for the stumble part right here is G 44:17, pateo, right? It means to sin or make an error, specifically here, the rejection and unlawful killing of the Messiah. That was John chapter 11, verse 1, John chapter 11, verse 51 through 55, which we just read earlier. That stumbling, that error, that sin, because that literally was a sin what they did, right? Did they stumble that they might fall? What does fall mean right here? Pipto, G 98, to be cast down from position of authority, to lose status or standing. What was that status or standing we had? Being his covenant people. Deuteronomy 7, verse 6.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
So did we fall? Did we stumble that we should fall? Or...
Wait a minute. Hold on one sec. So are they the people or not? Like earlier, so part of this argument, and I just now caught this part. Like this is the part when you go review it. It's like earlier in verse 1, it literally says they are the people. Now he's saying they're not the people. Well, that may not be fair. He might not be saying that. So let me just keep going. He might not be saying that.
Was it so bad that when we put Christ to death that we're no longer his people? We've been brought down to the Gentiles, right? Brought down.
Yeah. So clarification, he's not saying that.
Yeah, obviously.
He's actually saying the opposite, which is consonant to what Romans 11:1 says. So let's keep going.
To like when I mean Gentiles, I mean literal non-Israelites. We got brought down from being up here above them to down here. No, that's not what happened. And Paul's saying that. But rather through their trespass or stumbling, salvation is coming to the Gentiles, right? These Gentiles right here, this is evidence. The last few verses from Romans 11 is evidence of how and who these Gentiles are.
Who are these Gentiles? You're going to hear the answer. This is a major hermeneutical issue. Major, not small, not minor, major.
These Gentiles, F9, is going into the children of Israel that's been scattered abroad.
What?
Flag on the play.
Yeah, that flag on the play. Kind of with an echo. No, sir. That's not Paul's argument. Paul's argument isn't that these people are secretly Gentile. The argument, here's the thing. Paul's argument in Romans 11 only makes sense if there's a distinction between these two people groups. If Gentiles are really Israelites, then the whole argument makes no sense.
That like you have to. I'll be respectful when I say this. How about hearing my entire argument? From verse 1 to verse 11, I substantiated why it would be this, why this word Gentiles here. Like I did earlier in this about how F9 or if F9s could be a representation of an Israelite. I substantiated how that could possibly be. Now, the reason why I'm saying in this specific like presentation that the word Gentiles right here has to mean Israelites that are scattered into all nations, like the prophecies say they would be, right? The reason why I'm saying that is the conclusion of Romans 11 that all you Christians always try to come out with a breakdown for, but never sound like y'all understand anything. Oh, Christ. What is this? Right. So, this right here. Actually, I want to look at one thing. Okay. We good. Right. So, in Romans 11, verse 26, to conclude what he's talking about as far as the grafting in, it says, and in this way, all Israel will be saved. It didn't say the whole planet. It didn't say Israel and the Gentiles. It said in this way. What way? What he was talking about as far as the grafting in. In this way, all Israel will be saved. As it is written, the deliverer shall come from Zion. He will banish ungodliness from Jacob. If I say I am from Dallas, Texas, that means I was born in Dallas, Texas, and grew up in Dallas, Texas. Does that mean I was from somewhere else? No, it does not. It says he will banish ungodliness from Jacob. And this is my covenant unto them. Who are the them? The Israelites. When I will take away their sins. So even in what he's quoting cuts what you're talking about. This, like, the only way for this to be concluded is that you have to now say Paul is doing this. Let's go to where he's quoting. Jeremiah 51:20. Not 51:20. 59. Or is it Isaiah? That's Isaiah. Isaiah 59:20. That's not 20. What is it? Isaiah 59 and... Oh, it is 59:20. I'm tripping. Right? So this is what Paul is quoting. And he's saying the grafting in is so that this could happen. Right? So Isaiah 59:20. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion to those in Jacob who turn from transgression. Right? Which is a work, might I add. Declares the Lord. And as for me, this is my covenant unto them, those in Jacob, those in Zion, says the Lord, my spirit that is upon you and my words that I put in your mouth shall not depart out of your mouth or out of the mouth of your offspring or out of the mouth of your children's offspring, says the Lord, from this time forth and forevermore. So this will all, what I'm just saying to you in verse 20, will always be. So what you're saying is Paul is saying something different than what the Lord says will always be. This covenant that a Redeemer shall come is for Zion. You're doing the same exact thing that, who was that? Hassan said to me about inclusion. Inclusion doesn't mean exclusion. Just because it mentions Israel doesn't mean it's only Israel. But the problem is, it literally says, and a Redeemer will return to Zion to those in Jacob who turn from transgression, declares the Lord. That's specific. If I, that's like saying I wrote a letter. I'm writing a letter to, let's say, Charles. I'm writing a letter to Charles, and I'm sending it out. Who is that letter for? Oh, I know, Charles. You can't just say, oh, well, I know it's written for Charles, but I can take it and open it. No, that's a federal crime. Like, that's that's what you're doing when you make that point. That's a federal crime. What is it? If it meant everybody, then it would have if it meant everyone, there would have been no need to mention Israel. It's like, yeah, exactly. And also Swag City, exactly. Apparently the letters for everyone, right? Apparently. So I say all that to say this. You're saying if it had to be other people outside of Israel, and Paul's concluding that what he's talking about in Romans 11 is a fulfillment of Isaiah 59, those Gentiles cannot be non-Israelites, or either Paul's contradicting himself or he's going along with prophecy. That's the only two options you got. And the prophecy that we read does not mention heathen. So what do? Oh, I know, just like how the word ethnos or goy or goyim or ethnai, right? The words that get translated into Gentile, heathen, or people, just like how we see instances of that word meaning or talking about non-Israelites, you apply that here. That's how you use hermeneutics. That's come on, bro. Come on. And that's the only thing we've ever taught. If you go look on this show, this same breakdown I have not deviated from since I started this channel what's almost 7 years ago. And your talking point is still, they're just making the Gentiles whoever. Why not address what I believe in? Why not do that? That's you gotta be quicker than that, bro. What they say, if you're not first, you're last, man. I just talking shit. But yeah, man, let's get back in.
At all. This doesn't follow at all. But you're gonna hear more. You're gonna hear the rationale, because I was like, I gotta hear more, right? Paul, and then look, Paul's argument goes back to chapter 9, 10, and 11. Nowhere does Paul anywhere in chapter 9, 10, or 11 make the argument that Gentiles are secretly Israelites, or they're somehow part of the diaspora. They were scattered Israelites. None of that is in Paul's argument.
I'm going to calm down, right? I'm going to calm down. I was about to go old Yady for a second. This man said nowhere in Paul's arguments is he saying that they're secretly diaspora Israelites. The only way you could know to say something like that is from hearing Hebrew Israelites say that. So that would beg the question, where would Hebrew Israelites be getting that from if they say that? Oh, I know, Paul's arguments. You say that's not in Romans 9? That's not in Romans 9? So let's run back. You saying Romans 11 hinges upon Romans 9 and 10. Yeah, right, Romans 9 and 10. And you know what? I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. Now, you're saying nowhere does it say these Gentiles are diaspora Israelites. Got you, right? Got you. So, Romans 9 and 24. Even us, whom he have called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles, right? See, we're Gentiles. As he saith, also in OZ, which is Hosea. Matter of fact, I'm not KJV in this. That is not my preferred translation. Where's we at? Yeah. Even us whom he have called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles, as indeed he says in Hosea, those who are not my people, I will call my people, and her who was not my beloved, I will call beloved, right? And in the very place where it was said to them, ye are not my people, there they will be called sons of the living God, right? So he's quoting about these specific Gentiles, who he'll say are non-Israelites, who other Christian Hebrew Israelites who've been debased recently, right, will say are non-Israelites. But Paul's quoting Hosea chapter 1 and verse 10. Hosea chapter 1 and verse 10. Let's see if that's applicable to non-Israelites. Let's read. Let's do this fancy thing, this four-letter word called read. Let's do this. Hosea 1 and 10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it was said to them, ye are not my people, it shall be said unto them, who is the them? The children of Israel. The children of Israel, right? I'm going to read this again, right? Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. and in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people. What does it mean you're not the people? We already seen that in Genesis 17 and 14. When you're uncircumcised, you can be cut off from the people. When you see in Matthew 18, if you don't hear the law, statutes, and commandments between your brother, multiple people, the church, you're counted as a heathen or a non-Israelite. Just like this, where it was said to them, you are not my people, it shall be said to them, Israel, you are the children of the living God. So these Gentiles who, if Paul is not a false prophet, right? If Paul is not a false prophet and is qualifying who these Gentiles are by Hosea chapter 1 is specifically Israelites. What do we do with that? If you say, oh, no, nowhere in it does he qualify these Gentiles, these quote unquote Gentiles as Israelites, that's one of those places. I'm gonna read the next part, right? And the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together, and they shall appoint themselves one head, and they shall go up from the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel, right? That one head is Christ. So they're pointing who the head of them or their ruler, right? They're God to them, and I mean God as in like a ruler. Who is that? Christ. So this whole thing that's happening in verse 10 about going from being not the people to the people is relevant to Christ. Why you want to say germane? It's germane to Christ, right? And to what he did in his ideology and his concepts. That's why Paul is using that there. And it's important to know why he's using that there, because in the first century, who was in Rome? You had white people there, you had Hellenized Jews there. That's why he's saying unto us and unto you Gentiles. He's going to the church in Rome, not everybody in Rome, the church in Rome, the people who were beloved of God, like it says in Romans 1:7. The gospel is sent to you. That's why it says them Gentiles, because they were categorized as Romans. And with that understanding, let's go back to Romans 9. Look at this. So Paul qualifies these Gentiles as Israelites by the prophecy he quotes that's specifically only for Israel, just like how he does in Romans 11, quoting a prophecy that's specifically only to Israel in Isaiah 59. Right? Now watch this. And Isaiah cries out concerning Israel, though the number of the sons of Israel be as the sands of the sea, only a remnant of them will be saved. The KJV says Isaiah also cries out concerning Israel. He's quoting two prophecies that are specifically for Israel about these Gentiles, quote unquote. What are we talking about, bro? What about in 1 Corinthians 10, where he talks about brothers, I wouldn't have you. Let's read it. Let's read it. But that's not Paul's argument, apparently. It says, for I do not want you to be unaware, brothers, that our fathers were all under the cloud and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. If these were non-Israelites, how could that be? How could that be? And we can't use, because I know what's coming next when you try to pull this. Well, you got the mixed multitude. But guess what, dummy? Not every nation was there when Israel left. Were there scatters of Gentiles who left Egypt when they did? Yes. But that wasn't all nations, and everybody who descends from the nations of the world today were not there. So no, that does not work. This is making reference to the people who was given the covenant, who had the blood splashed on them. But wait a minute, he's writing this to a church in Corinth, to the Corinthians, to let them know that they're Israelites. But that's not his argument. And look, it better be his argument, because when we look in Corinthians 15, I'm gonna make this point too. This is why I won't take a dumb debate about, can the Gentiles receive salvation? That title needs to be reworked, because Paul, right, Paul is a dependent author. What do I mean by that? What he teaches has to be backed by the laws, statutes, and commandments and the prophecies. And he's going to say it himself. And I'm going to show 2 examples of that, right? It says, now I will remind you, brothers, of the gospel I preached to you, which you have received, and which you stand, and by which you are being saved, if you hold fast to the word I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. For I delivered to you as of first importance what I also received. So what he received is his understanding of the Bible, his understanding of the prophecies, and understanding of what they call, quote unquote, the Old Testament, right? So he's delivering them what he got from that. And let's see what he got from that. That Christ died for our sins in according to the scriptures. What is that? The Old Testament. What he believes in is dependent on that. So if you're saying that Christ died for non-Israelites, right, you're going to have to show that in the prophecies. And if you want to use Paul to do that, here is your issue. Paul is dependent upon the prophecies, and he says it himself. So we're going to have to argue in prophecy about who Christ would die for. Anything outside of that, I'm not doing. Because you have, for me to do that, you have to make me believe. You have to make me believe that Paul is independent of what the prophecy says, and I will never do that. I will never say that. I wouldn't say that off principle, and also because of what he said. Let's see another example, right? Romans 1:1. Paul, a servant of Christ Jesus, called to be an apostle, set apart for the gospel of God, which he promised beforehand throughout his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. Paul is dependent. He's dependent off of the prophecies. So if Paul is a dependent author in the text, just like how everybody else is in the New Testament outside of Christ, right? Just like how they are, you have to go back to the prophecies to substantiate your points. So I will debate that. If you want to talk about who salvation is for in the prophecy, yeah, obviously I'll debate that. Clear as day. But what I will never do is say Paul is independent of prophecies or equivalent to I will never do that. I will never do that. People want to talk about this guy wants to talk about that's not his argument. What are we talking about, bro? What are we talking about? Like it comes to a point where you have to just really believe that we have to be reading 2 separate books. The way people's belief systems are, you have this isn't like what I just read, 1 Corinthians 15, Romans 1, the points that I made in 1 Corinthians 10, these are not deep points. You don't have to go to school for this. If you just have basic reading comprehension, you will come to the same conclusion that I'm coming to by reading this. These aren't deep. But the thing is, there's something, and it's a one-word thing. There's a reason why all of this happens. Christians believe in what they believe in, trying to get Hebrew Israelites away because they want to talk about works and the white man can't be saved. And Hebrew Israelites who want to believe in Gentiles are going to receive the salvation that Christ comes, right? It's a one word. It's called agendas. Agendas. The Bible can't just say what it says in completion. There has to be people with agendas, right? There has to be people who want a financial benefit, people who want to be accepted by Caucasians, people who want to be who wants like stature in this world and a name in this world. That's why people do those things with this book. Agendas. That's all that is. That's why when we go back in time and we look at you know how when you're talking to people in the streets, anybody who evangelizes on the street, or if y'all talking to people in general, they say, I don't believe in the Bible because they forced that on us. They forced us to be slaves through the Bible. That's not what happened. First of all, we weren't allowed to read. So how were we forced upon it by reading the Bible and then forced to be slaves? No. What ended up happening is they forced us to not be able to read and not know language and be disconnected from whatever culture we had. Not just mentioning Hebrew Israelite culture, but whatever culture we had, and we were brainwashed through accepting their specific culture and having a twist upon it. And since we did that through our women, through our men, they passed that same mentality down to our good brother here, Rick, right? And I thank the Lord in heaven that he woke up some people who started what they call One West, right? And I don't consider, when I say this, I don't consider myself to be a One West Israelite, right? Because I don't like this. How do I frame this, right? From the way I am now, biblically, I don't take the same angles of certain things in theology that they do specifically. But I do understand that what separates me from other people on the internet who want to destroy One West, I understand that there was something divine that happened to where these people came and evangelized damn near this nation through the time. There's something specifically divine about that action. People can say whatever they want about camps. People can say whatever they want about oh, these people are wicked and do all. They can say whatever they want, but the reason why you are an individualite or Israelite and know that is because of One West. And I understand that. Everybody has a role to play, right? And I'm not going to kill off a member, because like Paul talks about, there's many members of the body. I'm not going to kill off a member for clout. That's something I will never do. Everybody has everybody can't be the eye, everybody can't be the brains, everybody can't be the ear. We all have a part to play in this to help us get out of this land, and trying to destroy that shows you exactly who these people are, and you get what you deserve, right? And that's not even just for Israelites in this truth. That's also for Christians. That's also for Christians. You get what you deserve. The fact that you will come on, like, what I will never understand, right? What I will never understand is how Christians could really ultimately have a problem with Israelites outside of salvation. We're telling gang members to stop gang banging. We're telling drug dealers to stop drug dealing. We're telling people to believe in the same person you believe in for salvation. We're telling people to be obedient unto the same things and teachings of the person who you believe salvation comes through. We're teaching them to go back to that same exact thing, but you will then have a problem with it. You get everything you deserve. You will get all of that. You will just like, let me get this one thing. Let's let Christ say it. And I'm reading this in NLT. Let's let Christ say it. Matthew 7:21. It says, not everyone who calls out to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. And this, we always use for Christians, but this ain't just Christians. Oh, it fits. The shoe fits definitely for Christians. This ain't just Christians. This is for you Hebrew Israelites out here who put a stain on us by your actions and you having to be exposed, right? You Hebrew Israelites who put fringes on when people are around, right? For you Hebrew Israelites who just don't do what the book says, who make this what they would call a cultish thing, right? This is you. Like, there's a one word when we first had our first Passover as Masada, the one word that I and all the rest of us who were there, who spoke at our Passover address, it's one word. It's called integrity. And that's the only thing that's going to uphold us. That upholded Job when his wife said, curse God and die. He said, you are the silly women. How can I expect good things from God and not bad things? He kept his integrity. We see Christ talk about the people, the parable of the sower, right? Who sowed seed on stony ground and sowed seed amongst thorns, and some people who the Lord sows seeds on the good ground, like fertile soil, so they can grow, right? And the people who are on the thorns, y'all motherfuckers, bro. The thorns, bro. The thorns is what Christ says is the cares of this world. What are the cares of this world? What people think about you, finances, right? How people look at you, right? All of that. That right there, that is the worst to me, right? Because we see Christ, not Christ. What is this? I forgot who says that. It might be the Lord. Like, it might not be the Lord. Who says that? It's like smoke in his eyes, right? A hypocrite. That's like smoke in his eyes. And you know what, Big Judah? I don't want to hear nothing from you. What I will not have in my chat is somebody who has rod in their mouth. Like I'm not gonna hold you that. Like I will not do that. I'm not dealing with that today, not at all. Right? People who take this as a joke and as a game and just think that this is something we just gonna do on Saturday just for show. This is going to be you, right? And I am not exempt from that, and I will never say that I am. But what is that? Isaiah 65:5. Let me get that, bro. I read that Zechariah. I read that one time, and I never found it again. If this is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, right. Who say keep your exactly, right? Isaiah 65:5. Who say keep to yourself, do not come near me, for I am too holy for you, holier than thou Israelites, right? Who literally think that they're so good and what they do and what they do, and they shit don't stink, and they know everything, all these things, that holier than thou Israelites, right? They are smoke in my nostrils, a fire that burns all the day. Why? Because you're hypocrite. You're what's that word? There's a specific word for that. Consistently hypocritical. They just say consistently hypocritical. That, bro. That's this. Let's go back into this. Matthew 7:21. It says, not everyone who calls out to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Only those who actually do the will of my Father in heaven will enter. On judgment day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, we've prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and perform many miracles in your name, right? That's Christians and that's Hebrew Israelites. But I will reply, I never knew you. Get away from me, you who break God's laws, right? That's what's going to happen to people. Nobody's exempt from that. Not Christians, not Hebrew Israelites, not nobody. So you get what, like how Paul says in Galatians, the Lord is not mocked. God is not mocked. You will reap what you sow. You sow evil into the world, you will get evil back. And Lord willing, people who are doing that, they stop doing that and repent of it. Because that's my ultimate. I'm not here to shame people. I'm not here to bash people. That's not what I come here to do. I pray that everybody repents for their transgressions. That's what I pray for. That's what I need. Because I'm tired. This place, Babylon the Great, I'm tired of being here. I'll tell you that. I'm tired of being here, bro. But let's go back into this. I side questioned for far too long. I've got enough XP, man. Let's go back to this main course.
That has to be imported into text. That's why, as much as they like to use this word exegesis, I can't call what they're doing here exegesis. This is theological imposition right here. This is called eisegesis. There's nothing in the text that says that. He says, oh, this is someone, hey, man, it's been a while. He says, I would love to listen to a discussion with you and an Israelite on this topic. I would love to talk. I've been out of the pocket as far as Israelite conversations. Israelite, so we're going to hear, or someone that considers himself a Hebrew Israelite. That's not the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is hermeneutics, how we handle the scriptures, right? That's how we get our conclusions. So they're saying on the screen, we're doing exegesis. So in order to deal with the exegesis, you have to actually deal with the words in Paul's argument. Is Paul, let's ask this question, all right? Because I think all of us, no matter what side of the argument you're on, you need to ask this question. is Paul in Romans 9, 10, 11 making some type of argument in that section that somehow the label for ethne, for that's the Greek there, right? For Gentile, that for Gentiles, that's somehow referring to Israel, right? He's going back and forth, and his argument necessitates that there's a clear contrast, right? Like for example, I mean, he makes a contrast between wild branches, and the natural branches, right? And so somehow the wild branches are really the natural branches, right? It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense in the argument. But I'm gonna keep listening.
Romans chapter 11, verse 26 through 27.
You talking about,
right? That's who these Gentiles are. You can match the blue with the blue right here for Gentiles, right? And jealousy. This is a provocation caused by seeing what belongs to those in Jewry given to the prodigal sons, the diaspora Jews, right? Because we see, and what we're going to touch on after this, is it right after this one? Okay, yeah, we're going to get that right after that, right? I'm going to touch on that when we get there. But that's going into the prodigal sons.
Prodigal son. Now, that should raise some red flags. What does the prodigal son have anything to do with Paul's argument? Why are we going? Here's some questions I just want us to think of. Why are we going to a completely different book? Why are we going to another parable? Why are we doing that? Like, Paul's not appealing to a parable, that parable in his argument.
Because they go with each other. So when Paul's making a point, and like I just showed earlier, Romans 9 and Romans 11, where he quotes a passage and doesn't even quote the whole passages in both of them. Is that wrong? You will never say that, but it's bad when I do it though. It's cool. It's cool when they do it, but it's a problem when I do it. Imagine that. Christians have no equity at all.
He's not using it. So here's the thing. We're going to say exegesis. Because I love the word exegesis, but if we're going to say that, here's the thing we got to be careful of. Our exegesis must be textually warranted. That is, if our conclusions must be based on text. If all I have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I can just say, well, I don't have the words of Paul saying what I am saying, and all I can do, I can just jump to another book somewhere, then I can jump to any book in the Bible and make Paul literally say anything at that point. And so is Paul referencing? Is he quoting? Is he alluding? Like what signal in the text warrants this jump to this parable that we're going to look at? And there's more I want to say about this, but I think this is a really critical point here, because they're trying to prove the issue of jealousy and the fact that this is in relationship to Israelites, and that Gentiles are not really Gentiles like non-Israelites. They're really Israelites here. But in order for that to make sense, we need to ground our argument in Paul's actual argument. And we're not doing that at this point. And I think that's highly problematic.
You see that prophecy, not really that prophecy, that parable that Christ gave about the prodigal son. You had one son that stayed with the father, right? Then you had one son decide to go get with the nations and the Gentiles and become a Gentile and then come back. And then when that son came back, the one son that stayed with the father, like the Jews in Jewry, got jealous about what the father did to that son, about how he welcomed them with open arms. And we're going to read that a little bit later. But when you read this, just to bring this to conclusion, it says, so I asked, did they stumble in order that they might fall? Did they sin when they put Christ to death? Was that sin so bad that they fell out of being God's chosen people? By no means, no. Rather, that through their trespass, salvation has come to the Gentiles. Who we know as these Gentiles, the Israelites, that became Gentiles, just like in 1 Corinthians 12, verse 2, right? It says, so as to make Israel jealous. Who is this Israel right here? The leadership and those who were in Jewry at that time, contextually.
Oh, wait a minute. He says contextually. And I like the word context. So, like, they're borrowing a lot of the language that used to be kind of a negative for Christians, right? Like context. But is it contextually? Like contextually means that it's actually part of Paul's argument. Like it has to be somewhere in the text. You can't just say contextually and it's nowhere part of.
He quotes them being jealous. I go to a passage where Christ told a parable about two sons, one that left the father's house and went around the nations and lived riotously, right? And became like how they did and came back, and the son that stayed was jealous. Like that, why can't we be having the same conversation? Every time I talk to, whether it be on the street, whether it be anywhere, we can never be having the same conversation. What was my point? Address my point. Why did I say that? Why would I even go? Like, what would prompt me to go there? If I asked him, he wouldn't even know. Like, it's crazy. Can we just have the same conversation?
Paul's argument here. Okay.
These terms clarify Paul's argument in Romans 11, verse 11.
All right. And I know many of you probably can't hear this guy offline because I said, he has some issues with his mic, or at least his audio is not coming in as clear as the other speaker who's at the top of the screen.
So they are Israel's leadership who sinned by rejecting Christ, but their stumble did not result in a complete fall or loss of Israel's position. Instead, through their trespass,
what does this even mean?
Salvation extends to the dispersed.
What does that even mean?
But notice this: they're saying all of this stuff is exegesis, and I just challenge all of you, anyone watching, go read chapter 11. Right? Is any of this stuff in chapter 11 or chapter 10? And here's the thing: we don't even have to. We don't even have to even guess about this, right? Because Paul lays it out for us. And so I want them to get to the argument about jealousy, because then I have a lot I want to unpack here. But I want you to hear their entire argument.
Living as Gentiles. And this restoration is designed to provoke the leadership to jealousy, as they witness their own people being brought back through Christ. And
they witnessed their own people? Is that what was happening? I don't know how you got that from Romans 11. Let me keep
being
going.
Obedient to the word of God, true piety, far more than them.
Mm-hmm. And you see that in Romans chapter 2. But when you get this,
what do you mean in Romans chapter 2? What do you mean in Romans chapter 2? You literally have two groups of people in Romans chapter 2. You have Jews and Gentiles in Romans chapter 2. Those with the law and those without the law. Now, I think they would argue that those without the law are those Hellenized Jews. No, that's not Paul's argument. If Paul wanted to make that argument, he could easily make that argument. That's not what he's saying there.
Because you're going to have...
See, that's what I mean. Like, you've either heard me say that or somebody else say that. And you're pretending like you're dumb. Like, that's what I mean about how, like, you're just trying to make content. You're pretending like you're dumb. You obviously have watched some of my content, or somebody else either close to me or something, right? You had to have, because that point was way too specific. You letting the game go with that one, right? But you could clearly make that point. You can clearly make that point of it's Hellenized Jews with them being without the law. You can read 1st and 2nd Maccabees and see how that could be Hellenized Jews. I mean, matter of fact, that's Texas as hell. Look at this. Howdy, y'all. Look, man, Texas, bro. But you can make that argument by going back to what I said about 1 Corinthians 10. How it, like, he doesn't want these Corinthians to be ignorant how their forefathers were the ones that walked through the Dead Sea with Moses. The only way they could be ignorant of that is they don't have the law. What you just saying? No, he didn't say that. You're trying to, like, he's trying to do like how white people do, like, I'm white and I'm right. He's trying to I'm white and I'm right. He said, well, what he's basically doing, he's like, the white man said this, so you're incorrect. That's what you're saying.
Christians, and you're going to have Christian Hebrew Israelites who will say it juxtaposes these Gentiles from Israel.
That's because that's the argument. He literally, Paul juxtaposes. It's not about what Christians or he calls Christianized Hebrew Israelites. It's about what is Paul's argument. What is Paul doing? I see only two groups in Romans 11. Israelites and Gentiles, not Gentiles who are secretly Israelites. That completely collapses his argument.
Watch this. Except to make Israel jealous.
Oh, man.
I'm going to hit this one. We're going to hit that next point. Watch. That next slide after this is going to be wild. So go ahead with this argument.
Understanding the jealousy and the Gentiles, so as to make Israel jealous. Gentiles here must be the diaspora Israelites, not foreigners. Israel already.
Why? He says Gentiles here must be diaspora Israelites, not foreigners. My question is why? What textual warrant? See, I just don't. What we never want to do. I don't care what side of the argument you are. Is you never want to be the kind of person you're just making assertions and there's no textual warrant for it. Why?
Because of verse 26, how he quotes Isaiah 59 and 20. That's why. Or else Paul's contradicting, either Paul's contradicting himself, Paul's contradicting God, or this is a mess. Like, that's why. And you know, when you get to the end, because when I skipped ahead, he didn't go through my whole presentation. When you skip to where I get to verse 26, you understand why we come to that conclusion. That's why I like Proverbs. It says, let me find that actually. Let me see. Right. I said this earlier. Let me see. Proverbs 18 and 13. I wonder what it says in NLT. It says we're here. Yeah. Oh, the NLT is crazy. The NLT crazy. It says spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. Right? That's what he's done. He's being shameful and he's being very foolish. You have not heard my point, and you're not going to deal with it in its completion, or you haven't heard it in its completion. Because if you did, you'd be like, okay, I see why they're coming to this conclusion. Now let me have my antithesis. No, your entire antithesis is white people said this, so you're wrong. That's what your antithesis is, and that's not exegetical. Like what I want y'all to understand is there's a pattern with the way he critiques my breakdown. It's it just don't say that. No, it just don't say that. But my point is off what the text is literally saying and corollary passages. He's like, no, they just don't say that. No, Jesus is God. Salvation for all people. Nope. It must be nice to just do that. I have to prove every point. I have to prove every point that I ever make in full, like exact understandings, never making a mistake because y'all do this, but y'all get to just say nope. It must be great, man. It must be great.
Why do we accept that? Why do we accept that as the answer?
Allow foreigners to access to worship. So this would not provoke jealousy logically.
So stop right there.
So Ricky Vargas, exegesis and eisegesis. Exegesis is like you're basically, I'm not going to give literal definition. I'm going to just give you a real world example. Like exegeting the text, like say like I wanted to understand, there's a chapter I wanted to understand, like there's verse 5. For me to get the true understanding of that is reading verse 1 through 4 and then the rest of the verses in the chapter, and then getting corollary passages from other places and marry them together to get a full understanding. That's how you exegete a text. Now, eisegesis is when you isolate a text. When you take a text, isolate it, and just start talking. That's what Christians do. Just like when we talk about how, when I say the salvation, and I want to use my words clearly when I say this, the salvation that Christ is coming to bring, right, from Babylon, from let me see, from Babylon, from Armageddon, from Jehoshaphat. That type of salvation that Christ is coming to bring, I don't believe that's for heathen. No, because the prophecies don't say that, and it doesn't line up that way, right? Now, Christian will say John 3:16. They're not going to read the whole chapter. They're not going to mirror that up with anything else. They're just going to say John 3:16, laugh at you black people, and walk away. That's eisegesis. That's how they do that. But yeah, that's the difference. Like, I'm not giving literal, I'm just giving real world examples.
This is going into the next slide I'm going to do after this. Prior to Romans chapter 11, we allowed Gentiles to come to our temple. They came there and they worshiped our God, but they could only go so far into it. So they always had access to come and serve our God. That's literally written historically. And I got that in the next slide. So if they had that ability, why would we be jealous? Why would we be jealous about what Paul is saying here? That don't make no sense. That don't make sense logically at all.
All right. So the thing is, let me do this, because this is I can't let this continue.
Yeah, because it doesn't make too much sense.
More, folks. I want to follow Paul's argument, because you're hearing stuff that's not even part of Paul's argument, and that's the part where we're not in the realm of exegesis anymore. Okay, I want you to understand that. Remember, I said that the argument started back in Romans 9, 10, 11. So here's what I'm going to do for the sake of time. For the sake of time, I'm going to go back.
Yeah, you can't deal with that. You can't deal with that. That's what that is. You can't. And I use this for everybody who wants to believe in this. Romans 11 is adding non-Israelites. You can't deal with that. If it's supposed to be non-Israelites are supposed to make us jealous because they can come in and be right along with us. Well, prior to Romans 11 existing, prior to Paul existing, in our second temple, we allowed Gentiles to come there. They could hear the words of God. They could be in the outer courts, they could be in the markets. They could be there. They could come to synagogues. Contrary to popular belief, that's a thing. So how would we be jealous of them then if what he's saying is they can come and be a part of us? That don't make sense. That's a problem. And he had no answer for that. That's why we're going somewhere else. That's why that smile is on his face. That is a major problem for anybody who wants to say Romans 11 is that's for non-Israelite. Like, they can now be a part of the children of Israel. Well, they've always been there. And I cited sources. Look at this. Look at this. Where is this at? Let me put this right here. Ooh, where did I put this at? Yeah. I cited sources to show that. So you had no answer for that. Like, y'all are not sophisticated enough to be on YouTube trying to talk mess to anybody. Y'all are not prepared for questions. Like, if we had a conversation about this and you try to say, well, how are they making them jealous if they're not Israelites? Well, I mean, yeah, let me run it back. How can you say these Gentiles are Israelites if they have to be jealous of them? The only way they can be jealous is they're non-Israelites. Well, we had them around. You can go to Josephus, various other places, like in antiquity, right, to show that Gentiles could come to our synagogues and go to our temple, but they were always treated a certain type of way. They can come and worship, but they were always treated a certain type of way, right? Always. Now, if I'm going to say something like, oh, well, you're saying the Hellenized Jews, they're being the Hellenized Jews, why would they be jealous of the Hellenized Jews? Oh, the same way we see that in Acts chapter 6. Look at Acts chapter 6. Let's look at Acts chapter 6 real quick. Where did this go? Let me close this so I can see. There we go. Let's go to Acts chapter 6. I'm going to take that out the ESV. Take it to the ESV. Right? Look at this. Acts chapter 6. Right? Acts 6:1. Now in these days, when the disciples were increasing in number, a complaint by the Hellenists. Oh, wait, who is this? That is Greek-speaking Jews, right? Arose against the Hebrews because their widows were being neglected in the daily distribution. They treated Hellenists differently, even after they believed. Even after they believed, and even after they were converted to being a proselyte and converted into like believing how we did while we were in Judea at the time. They were still being called Greeks. They were still being called Hellenists, and their wives were treated differently because of their affinities. We see that with them, but you know what? In history, we don't see that with the Gentiles. We don't see that with the Gentiles. You may have one or two like spouts here and there, but they could come to our synagogues. They could do that. They could go there. You know, there's the goyim. You know, the goyim doing goyim things. You know, they leave and probably eat a pork chop sandwich over there at Caesar's palace. That's what they did. But the way we were treating our brother that went off into Greek ideologies, like the prodigal son, when he came back, we treated them a certain type of way. That's evident throughout history and in the Bible. But I'm crazy for coming to this conclusion. Great. You know, like great. I'm just saying, bro. Y'all get to just do it. Look at this dude cheesing like he made a point in.
And show you what Paul anchors his argument in. So I'm going to pull up the text because I'm going to save us some time here. Okay, you heard what they said. If they just follow Paul's argument, I would have no problem. But they're not following Paul's argument. So let's just do this. Let's go to Romans chapter 10. Let's go back one chapter. Okay, and let's read what Paul says on this. And he's just follow his words.
Yeah,
believe what Paul says, right?
You read verse 1?
And so let's do this. Let's go back and we're going to go to Romans chapter 10, verse 16.
Exactly.
But they did not all obey the gospel. For Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed what he has heard from us? So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. But I ask, have they not heard? Indeed, they have. For their voice has gone out to all the earth, and their words to the ends of the world. But I ask, did Israel not understand? First, Moses says, now notice this is part of Paul's argument. I will make you jealous. Look at the words here. I will make you jealous of those who are not a nation. Wait a minute. Where is Paul pulling this from? Back in the old Deuteronomy.
In the Old Testament, just like in that same Old Testament where the children of Israel and Hosea are called not a people, which is the same Hebrew word, right? Meaning nation or people group or group of people. You're not scholastic. You're not don't stop calling your channel biblical apologetics. Like you're not apologetic. There's nothing you should be offering apologies for having to sit through this.
Chapter 32, okay? With a foolish nation, I will make you angry. So he's already, in Paul's argument, he's not talking about some Hellenized group of people that are called Gentiles that are part of the argument here. He's talking about a completely different people group. He's literally talking about that, appealing back to Deuteronomy chapter 32, right? Back in the Torah is part of Paul's argument. So the question is, why isn't this being appealed to? Because that's Paul's argument right here. This is what he builds upon.
Bro, Buddy's a dummy. Like, I'm not gonna hold you. Buddy's a dummy, right? For two reasons with this. He's saying, why is this not appealed to? You big dummy, it is in the chapter. He's quoting the same things. You big dummy. And two, why are you not appealing to my point? You literally ran from the history that I put up in that chat, in that presentation, to try to do this. This is what I mean about like certain people. Like, I don't like, one thing that I'm really big about is sincerity. It's not a sincere thing to discredit somebody so that you look like you're right, to clip people out of context to look like you're right. That's not sincere. That's not you trying to prove your point. That's not you having an antithesis. That's you being a douchebag. Like, bro, that literally is like Paul quotes, he's quoting this in Romans 11. I literally have 4 slides dedicated to it. I have an exegesis of the specific verse. I have a complete breakdown of what I'm saying right there. But no, it doesn't matter. It just says it's a foolish nation. Yeah, big dummy, that word nation, or ethnos, is the same word that gets used for Israelites and non-Israelites, and has examples of that specific word, ethnos, that I've already shown being for Israelites. And we also have multiple times in the Bible where Israel is called not a people and not a nation. One or two for the northern kingdom, and one for Israel as a whole. Like, what are we doing, bro? Like, this is what I mean. This is what I mean, bro. This is what I mean. Like, y'all are not ready. Like, y'all have enjoyed this ease of Christianity because nobody challenges. Like, Christians don't really challenge Christians. The only time they ever want to do that is so they can get a leg up so they can be the guy, right? They like, y'all don't challenge. Like, Christians are never challenged. Y'all have enjoyed 2,000 years of unchallenged belief, right? And I'm not, and look, you got your little reformations, that's fine. I don't even care. They still believe in BS anyway. Y'all have enjoyed 2,000 years of unchallenged beliefs. But you know what I'm gonna tell you right now, Rick? We can read now. We have the blue letter now. We have AI to assist us, not to do the work for us, but to assist us now, right? We have leadership now. We have actual hermeneutics that make sense now. We're not just going off of the same ideologies that you heard that these forefathers in the Christian church are parakeeting. We don't do that. That's why you operate the way you operate, because we are a problem. That's what this is. We are a problem to you. Y'all ain't never had to think before. Y'all are when I forgot if it's Neo, who remember in the Matrix, where they unplugged from the Matrix and they said their eyes were hurting because they never used them before. That's how it is with us and y'all. That's how our relationship is. Y'all ain't never had to use your eyes or y'all's mind. Y'all just sat in the pews and sat there downloading BS doctrines off of the Bible from people who don't even know what they're talking about. And we'll have the nerve to celebrate when one of our leaders fall. But y'all have been dealing with let's talk about the blood on the Christian church. Let's talk about the doctrine of discovery. Let's talk about how y'all with the Pope were enslaving colored people, whether it be blacks or whether it be Muslims, right? Let's talk about the Inquisition. Let's talk about the conquistadors. Let's talk about what continues to happen in the Catholic Church now and the Baptist Church. That's a conversation that you are not ready for, and you don't want to have. That's why y'all do this. This video that you did about me and what you do about other Hebrew Israelites is an escape mechanism to discredit us to where we don't even look like somebody y'all should debate because y'all discredited us so much. But I will tell you this. If you ever get on a video with me, the same way I'm doing your points right here, that's what's going to happen to you in real life. That's one thing I don't expect you to email me. Emails in the chat, the Masada School, MasadaSchool@gmail.com. I don't expect you to leave any comments talking about you're trying to get a call or anything like that. I don't expect that, because you know while you're sitting in your desk right there with your racing chair that's bad for your back, right? And that hairline was running away from where it used to be, right? You know it will be bad for you. That's what it is. You know it will be bad for you. And that's all I got to say, bro. That's pretty much it. This I can't keep looking at Big Dummy right here, bro. Big I can't keep looking at Big Dummy like that. Right. So, like I said, because it's like, oh, this should about to be over in like a few minutes anyway. Like I said, right, and don't mind the fan in the back, bro. It's hot in Texas, bro. It's raining. It's still hot as hell. So, like I said, man, don't like the video, share the video, right? Share it to your Christian pastor and have them answer some questions, right? Leave some comments, tell them, oh, Yady, you're a piece of garbage. You know, and it's fine, right? Leave a super chat or super thanks if it be on your heart, if you want to support the ministry. We got an awesome trip coming up literally 2 weeks from now, right? And we're going to be at the FIFA games. We're going to be putting in a lot of work in June, right? And that requires funds. So if you would like to, yes, I will, Jaquab. I will post a PowerPoint, right? Usually those are reserved for what I'm about to talk about next. If you would like to be a part of the rebellion group where you get all of these without having to ask me for them, right? You can hit the membership on any tier, right? And you get all of these, and you get to get questions answered right then and there, everything, right? Fellowship, everything, right? We all learn together. We just went through the whole book of John. Then we're dealing with the 70 weeks prophecy, hopefully this week, right? We're gonna be doing all that, right? Also, if you don't want to give Esau your money, right, by super chatting, you could support us directly on Cash App, the Masada $ Masada DTX, right? What else? Got some videos coming up pretty soon. Got a lot of big things coming, man. A lot of big things coming. But yeah, man. With that, you know, I love all y'all, man. All my people out there who scattered abroad, and keep your head up. That's one thing I want y'all to leave with is keep your head up, because there's so many things with our community. There's so many things that we have to go through. There's so many things we have to deal with, like with ourselves, that makes it hard to remain in this truth. Right? There's one thing somebody asked me a while back. What's the hardest thing about being in this truth? Not becoming a hypocrite. Living long enough to be the villain. That's the hardest thing. So with that, man, I'm gonna say, call hello Yahweh Ba, Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shai and Shalom.